Football season ready to start, which means NFL time about to come. Another moment, another opportunity for y'all to wear those jerseys with another man's name on your back. And it's okay to wear another man's name. Are y'all ready for some football? That's right, I'm talking about tailgating, barbecue grills. I'm talking about hot dogs, putting them burgers, some steaks on there. I'm talking about buffalo chicken dip, buffalo chicken wings. I'm talking about pizza. I'm talking about Cool Ranch Doritos and ice cold root beer. Alright, so ice cold root beer and the Cool Ranch Doritos, that's my thing. But maybe it's not your thing, it's my thing. Okay, I'm sorry. But football season's about to start, that's right, and we all getting ready for it, we all getting geared up for it. But there's something else going on too, and something else that's about to start. There's still an unresolved issue that still plagues the NFL games. That's right, you already know what it is, the national anthem protest. It still continues on as many NFL players are choosing to protest the unjustifiable killings of unarmed black people in America by our police department. So we're going to get into that right now. Oh, did I say it? Welcome to the Past to Present podcast. Yes, I'm your host, Alan the Great. Should have started with that, right? Anyway, you already know by now who I am and where you at. So thank you once again for joining us this week. So we're here to talk about the NFL protests. And I know what you're probably thinking right now. Some people probably already clicked off. Probably like, oh my gosh, here we go. Another black guy great sit here and talk about the NFL protests. Oh my gosh, really? Yes, really. Another black guy's going to talk about the NFL protests. The difference is with this black guy is I'm going to educate you on the history of protests, and hopefully you learn and understand by the time this video is done why protesting is one of the most patriotic acts in America. And even if you don't agree with it, maybe you'll gain a better understanding of why this protest is going on. And you'll learn to look past the narrative that's swinging around the NFL. You already read the title, so let's get right into it. Colin Kaepernick, former quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, chose to sit for the national anthem. Now, many video cameras of the game caught this act, and there became a huge backlash that Colin Kaepernick received due to the choice to sit for the national anthem. Due to all the backlash and all the comments and negative feedback from him sitting, he chose to take a knee instead of sitting out the national anthem protest. The national anthem. This too got backlash as this started to catch on, and more players around the league started to join hands with Colin Kaepernick by kneeling for the national anthem protest. This fire has caught on and become into a bigger story. The problem with this story is, and the problem with the national anthem protest is the bigger issue is that we focus more on the narrative of the national anthem protest and not what the actual protests stand for. So let's talk about it. The narrative that's going around the NFL is that Colin Kaepernick and any other NFL player who chooses to kneel for the national anthem is trying to disrespect our military, our first responders in this country, and more importantly, the American flag. Now, it's important where we talk about narrative, and we got to get into narrative real quick, because narrative is a very big thing in sports. What's the big thing about narrative? Think about it. Yankees versus Red Sox. The narrative is there's a rival between the two. If the Yankees play the Mets, the narrative is it's a Subway Series. Okay? If the Michigan Wolverines play Ohio State, there's a narrative to that rivalry. Former Cleveland Cavalier, now Laker, LeBron James. When he go play the Cavaliers again, guess what the narrative would be? LeBron James is going home to play his former team. In sports, like in life, we focus a lot on the narrative and not on the truth or the facts. But here we're going to get right past the narrative, because that's what happened with this national anthem protest. What has happened with it is the narrative has become a bigger story than the actual fact. So let's start with why is Colin Kaepernick, former San Francisco 49ers quarterback, choosing to take on a protest in the national anthem? Well, because black people in America are being murdered by police officers in America, and there is no criminal cases being put against these police officers. There's no punishment is happening towards these police officers. So to bring awareness to this unjustifiable murders of black African Americans in America, Colin Kaepernick chose the national anthem protest. Now, many people disagree with this and feel like that's unpatriotic to even kneel or protest to the national anthem, but here's the thing. We're going to get into what it means to protest in the national anthem. Colin Kaepernick is currently out of a team due to a protest. He's filing a collusion lawsuit towards the NFL due to the fact that he's been passed up on many jobs, despite the fact there's many openings, and this quarterback has gotten the 49ers to the Super Bowl once, and almost their second time if it wasn't for interception by former Seattle I keep saying Supersonics, Seattle Seahawks cornerback Richard Sherman. So we need to put that. It's very important to say that. So you probably wonder why I just mentioned that. It's very important to say that Colin Kaepernick was a decorated and a highly very good player. So it's not like he's one of these past his prime players. However, due to his, even though he has these skills and these abilities to still play a game, he doesn't have a job in the NFL. But we're not here to discuss why Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job in the NFL. We're here to discuss narrative versus the facts here. The fact of the matter is many black Americans are being killed in America right now. We have a serious issue right now with the police department in the black American community. The problem is, even bigger problem is, nobody wants to deal with that. Our current president is an example of the ignorance that is being spewed in a narrative that's being spread all across media sites in regards to the national anthem protest. That's right, Mr. Number 45 himself, our current president. Oh boy. What did he say about the NFL players and the players who choose to protest? Well, one, they should be fired. Yeah, I guess he thinks he's still on The Apprentice or something, and we're still on a game show, or he's still, I don't know. So apparently we think he's on some type of game show. Anyway, he's speaking very negatively about these NFL players who's choosing to protest, saying that they should be fired, kicked off their team, the owner should not allow them to play. Okay? He's also accusing them of being unpatriotic, just like most people in America is, saying that the military is being disrespected by this. So let's go into it. Let's get into it. Okay, let's get right into it. So we're talking about unpatriotic, we're talking about our current president. Let's talk about unpatriotic for a second. Our current president of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, didn't he disrespect the military when he talked about a former soldier who died and disrespected a former soldier who died and his widow? What about rest in peace, John McCain? And my thoughts, my prayers are with you and with your family. Mr. John McCain has died through brain cancer. What about the disrespect you put on him, not calling Dr. John McCain a hero? We all don't know who John McCain is and what John McCain is about. Let me educate you on the history of John McCain real quick, okay? Before we get into the protest and the history of the protest, okay? John McCain is a war hero. He was shot down in Vietnam. He broke both his arms, and I think he broke his leg as well. And even still, he was able to activate his floating device and was beaten in the head when being captured, took into a prison camp, and tortured in Vietnam. Now, John McCain's father, I believe, was an admiral in the Army. And because of his high ranks in the military was able to negotiate John McCain to be released from the prison camp and return to America. However, John McCain decided to stay there with the rest of his soldiers that were still in the prison camp. And I believe he stayed there for about, 3 to 5 years afterwards, after being captured, enduring all kinds of torture. You get no more patriotic and you get no more being a hero than that. However, our current president is disrespecting John McCain. He totally disrespected John McCain and told America, on American TV, he's not a hero. But you're the guy who's talking about players are not patriotic? Really? Really? You're that guy? You're the same guy. Let's go further, okay? Because you're probably saying, I need more evidence. You're not giving me enough. What else did the president do? How about the same president who basically downplayed our intelligence community, the FBI, CIA, all the intelligence community in America, just to say that the Russians didn't hack our email system and influence the election. So I guess it's patriotic to disrespect our intelligence crew, our whole intelligence in our country, and undermine their integrity. I guess it's patriotic too. So he's shown all kinds of signs of patriotic behavior. However, he chooses to focus on what the players in the NFL are doing and chooses to protest. Let's get a little deeper into it, okay? Let's get a little deeper into it. We're not going to make this about bash Donald Trump thing. We're going to get into the narrative versus the facts, and it's all plays into it. The fact of the matter is, when you want to talk about protests, let's talk about protests, okay? Fact is, the biggest protest that ever happened in America happened before the Revolutionary War. I'm talking about the Boston Tea Party. Did you know in history that the Boston Tea Party was actually the first revolution and led to the freedoms that we have today? Absolutely. The Boston Tea Party was when England had basically had a monopoly on the tea trade. That's how the whole thing started. So the Boston Tea Party started from the England having a monopoly on Tea Party. So are we calling them people who chose to protest on the Boston Tea Party? We call them unpatriotic? What about the women's suffrage movement? We already talked about that. We did a whole episode about that, about the women's suffrage movement and all the great things that these women did to give women of today the right to vote. They were called unpatriotic because they chose not to work in a military factory during World War I. They were called unpatriotic because they still chose to protest the fact that they didn't have the right to vote during wartime. They were called unpatriotic. What about the Vietnam War and all the people who protested the Vietnam War? They be called unpatriotic because they didn't agree with a war that America really didn't have a fight into, and we'll get into that on another subject and get deeper in that. What about the parents who chose to protest the Vietnam War because they didn't want their children going over across seas and dying for a war that had nothing to do with America? Yeah, they were called unpatriotic too. See, all the protests that go on in America, it seems like everything's unpatriotic. So you call it unpatriotic, you don't think that these NFL players and black people should be protesting the national anthem. So my question to most people is, so what do you suggest? What do you suggest they do? You know what most people say? Well, why don't you do a social media protest? Yeah. You got a lot of ideas on what to do, but you don't have an idea how to effectively change it. You don't really care when black people are sitting here dying in the streets by the hand of our police officers. You ignore that, but you're catching attention of this protest. And when you get into news media, what they do is they turn this into a narrative that focuses on that the protest is disrespecting the flag and the military. The same military who fights for us the right to have the protest. The same military that fights for us to have the right to speak freely and freedom of speech. We're talking about disrespecting the same military, correct? Because isn't that what the military stands for? Isn't that what they're fighting for? For us to have these rights? So Colin Kaepernick exercising the very rights that the military fight for is disrespectful to the military. I think the biggest form of disrespect is not fighting and not really appreciating and utilizing the rights. Excuse me, I got a fly in here. What the heck is going on? Sorry. But utilizing the rights that the military truly bestowed upon us. Maybe we shouldn't, just because we have the rights, maybe we shouldn't just use them, right? Maybe Colin Kaepernick and the players in the NFL shouldn't use these rights. Because just because you have rights don't mean you should actually use them, right? Right? So, I mean, just because we got the rights of freedom of press don't mean we should do it, right? Just because we got the rights for freedom of privacy, that don't mean we should have privacy, right? Maybe we should pull that back too, right? Oh, what about freedom to bear arms? Maybe we should pull that back too, because you know what? It's kind of unpatriotic to have weapons, right? Especially military grade weapons. When you hear about all these shootings and stuff, maybe we should pull back those rights too. You want to hear an interesting thing when you start talking about taking away the NFL protests? When you start pulling at these little things, these rights that we have. You know what interesting thing about that is? You be careful with them strings you're pulling, because you never know what's going to unravel from the strings you're pulling. So when you talk about pulling away rights, think about what's going on. So we don't want to deal with the issue. We don't want to deal with the issue at hand is the fact that black Americans are being killed in the streets by police department. We don't want to deal with the problem because a lot of us don't have a solution. Then so many people out here, they're going to say, well, you keep talking about black people getting killed by police, but where's the outcry in Chicago where 178 teens have been killed over the summer? What about all the shootings in Wilmington, which is called Murder Town, USA? What about Philadelphia and LA and all these major cities? What about all the black crimes there? Why don't we hear an outcry about that? Why are you not speaking about that? And here's why I'll say that. Let's address it. That's right, because I'm addressing everything right now. I ain't hiding, I ain't running. I'm here to talk to you, so let's talk about it. You're absolutely right. We have issues in those communities. We have issues in Chicago where black people are killing black people. But here's the interesting thing. I'm not going to use what Dr. Eric Dyson says and says, hey, well, you know, you kill people in the same community. So if you live in a community full of white people, then you're going to kill other white people. You live in a community of Asian or Latino people, you're going to kill Asian Latino people. Now I'm going to state the straight facts and what's going on. Because as a person who grew up in the project for over 9 years, let me tell you how it feels and what it's like growing up there. First of all, I've seen some things that'll give you nightmares as an adult. And I'm not saying that because I think it's cool or I'm hoping to give me points, but I'm just going to give you the reality on the fact. It's bad there. You're right. It's horrible there. There's a lot of killing. There's a lot of drugs going on. There's a lot of bad things happening in these communities. You're absolutely right. But let's talk about what's going on. There's rampant poverty in these towns, these cities. There's rampant poverty. There's lack of jobs. These children go from school and they have nothing to do. There is no more summer jobs. There is no more community centers. There is no more community raising their children. See, when I grew up, there was a community. The community was a village. They all helped raise me. The reason I made it out of the projects without a record being an upstanding citizen because there were people who cared about me outside of the people that lived in my house. But there are also basketball leagues that I played in. I had summer jobs. I had things to do after school. We don't have none in that community. We have rampant poverty. Drugs is all over the place. A liquor store on every corner. That doesn't give an excuse for murder, but where is the war on poverty? We had war on drugs. We got war against Afghanistan, Vietnam, Iraq. We got wars everywhere, but where is the war on poverty in these communities? Bringing back money into these communities. Educating these children on how to act in a capitalistic system. Where is that? Let's talk about it, people. See, we got Donald Trump and the government talking about sending the National Guard into Chicago. Okay, and when you do that, how about this? Next time you got forest fire, you got fire at your house, do this. Go to the local gas station, take your gas can, fill it up with gas, and then pour that on the fire instead of water. And let me know how that plays out. I know a lot of y'all probably like, yo, this dude's crazy. You talking about pouring gasoline on fire? You know what that's going to do? You trying to blow my house up? You trying to blow up the whole neighborhood? Well, that's the exact same thing. That's a metaphor for exactly what's going to happen if you bring a National Guard into a city that's already plagued with violence and guns. See, I'm not interested to sit here and complain about a problem. I'm interested in facts, and I'm interested in solutions. Okay? So solution to these problems in Chicago and these poverty-ridden cities, yes, we need to bring awareness to it. Yes, we need protests and we need to speak about it, but there's plenty of awareness to it, but do anybody really care? Do anybody care? Is anybody going to put the work in? I'm not just talking about the citizens who live in those neighborhoods, but what about the government? What about putting some funds in these neighborhoods to create opportunities for these children when they leave school? Communities, outreach programs that take them outside the community and show them something different. Now, we're going off subject that we're here to talk about, which is the national anthem protest in the NFL and with the narrative with this, okay? We're going off subject, but at the same time, we're in the same lane. Because these same players that the president is sitting here disrespecting and telling them they should be fired because we're on a reality show now. We're not in America no more. We're on the world's biggest reality show. He's talking about they should be fired like they're on Apprentice or something. That same president, think about this. Those same players that you're talking about should be fired are taking millions of their dollars to invest in those communities. They're not walking around with a camera showing off what they're doing in these communities. They're investing their money, their time in the community, not because the NFL wants them to or it forces them to. They're doing it because they want to, because they're trying to help, because most of these players come from these type of communities, these poverty-stricken communities. And the only way they found a way out was through NFL, was through sports. Colin Kaepernick, even though not in the NFL, took $1 million of his own money and invested it back. You know, when I think about Colin Kaepernick, I can't help but think about Muhammad Ali. I can't help but think about Muhammad Ali when I think about what Colin Kaepernick is going through right now. Think about this for a second. Muhammad Ali fought in the Olympics in 1960. Fought in the Olympics, light heavyweight division, won a gold medal. He chose to not fight in the Vietnam War, not protest, but not fight in the Vietnam War. And what was he called? He was called a draft dodger. He was called a nigger. He was called unpatriotic. One of the greatest fighters of the time and the most beloved fighter, heavyweight fighter of the time, heavyweight champion. He was stripped of his title, was not allowed to fight, was not able to feed his family. For years, he lost his prime years of boxing. He was called all these things. After a rule overturned the conviction of him dodging the draft, he was able then only go back to fighting. Now we're going to fast forward to present times, since now, rest in peace, Muhammad Ali, we look at him as a hero, an American icon. The same guy in modern history, modern sports history, one of the greatest moments was Muhammad Ali carrying the Olympic torch, and I believe it was the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta. It was one of the greatest modern sport moment in history. It was amazing. And all I could think about was, wow, he's a darling to all these people now, but back then he was nothing more than a draft dodger, an unpatriotic nigger who chose to be a coward and not fight in the Vietnam War, even though he felt what most Americans felt at the time was that we didn't have a fight in that war. And it just makes me think to myself, like, wow, we got some serious revisionist history in this country. We do. We have revisionist history where we forgot all that. But you know what the problem, I think, what the biggest issue with this country is? The lack of love for humanity. We have a lack of love for humanity in this country. I talked about the moral compass before, but you know what I think it is? It's a lack of love for humanity. We're so caught up in our self-indulgence. We're so caught up in our money, in all the things we have in our life, our cars, our children, our social status, our class, that we forget about people. And we stop caring about people. And we don't care about nobody but the people who live in the same house as us. The people that benefit and affect us all we care about. So when these black people are dying, it's easy to ignore it because not your moral compass, but your love for humanity just doesn't exist anymore. When you think about Charlottesville, going back to number 45 for a second, his lack of humanity doesn't exist. When you get on air after the Charlottesville attack and you got white supremacists marching down the street with tiki torches, you stand on TV and you basically say, well, there was good people on each side of that protest. So white supremacists are good people now. Interesting. So people who promote hate in the killing of a race is good people now. How do we really listen to our current president's judgment when he makes statements like that? And he represents a lot of what America believes and thinks now. We talk about the flag, and the flag is it's a very important symbol in our country. It's a symbol of what this country is supposed to represent. Freedom, hope, togetherness, united people, power. But then we look at our president, he represents a symbol as well of hate, separation, and bigotry. As we dealing with an issue when the biggest separation is between the black community and the police department, there is no solution. The solution is to ignore the problem. The solution is to keep Colin Kaepernick and players who choose to protest off the field or out of the spotlight because we want to just get back to football. We just want to put our jerseys on. We want to get back to tailgating, enjoy our Sundays because that's what it's about. It ain't about protesting. It's always about that. There is never a right time to protest. People say, well, it's just not the right time. So you tell me when's the right time? Because when the women's suffrage movement, when they protested during World War I, it wasn't the right time. When people protested during the Vietnam War, it wasn't the right time. When people protested the Boston Tea Party protests went on, it wasn't the right time. When gay, bisexuals, and lesbians protest for equal rights, it wasn't the right time. When is it the right time to protest? Please tell me. Please tell me. When is the right time? When is the right time to bring awareness to a problem that we are dealing with? When is the right time to actually care about somebody losing their lives? My wife said something to me that's really powerful. She said to me, we're talking about the police killing. She said, it's not okay no more. Not that no more, it's not okay that our children are afraid. That we're afraid, that we're afraid for our husbands, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our uncles, our fathers, our mothers. It's not okay that we're afraid every time a police officer pull behind us, or every time we break down or call a police officer, that we can be the next victim on TV. I'm not exaggerating, people. What I'm spitting to you is all facts. And if you don't believe what I'm saying to you, go check it out. Go research it for yourself. I'm not here to sit here and belittle anybody for what you choose to believe. The fact of the matter is we're focused on narratives. What the fact of the matter is what the media have done is they have turned this whole protest into a big narrative. It's all about disrespecting the flag. However, nobody wants to address the main issue. The elephant that sits in the room, the fact that there's still an issue between the police department and the black community. The fact of the matter is, that the police still continue to kill black people with no crime or no kind of punishment for it. Now we get it. Listen, we don't want no issue with the police department. As a black community, I think I can speak for all. We don't want that kind of issue. And we get it. What will happen if you harm a police officer? We know what's going to happen, but what we don't know is if you kill a black person in the streets like an animal, like you're hunting a deer or alligator from one of my favorite shows, Swamp People. I love that show, by the way. I know I'm digressing, just went completely off subject, but they hunting us like alligators or deer in the street and shooting us down. There is no consequences. But there's consequences when you shoot an alligator. If you shoot it out of season, there's consequences when you kill a deer out of season. Where's the consequences for us? Where's the justice, America? What about You talk about protesting, and you talk about how we're disrespecting the flag. Let's talk about it. Let's spit some more history. Let's talk some more facts. You ever heard about the Red Tails? You know what the Red Tails are? Most of you probably like, who the heck is the Red Tails? During World War II, the Red Tails were African American pilots who guided and ushered bombers over Germany on bombing runs. The Red Tails were so effective against the German fighters, the Luftwaffe, that the bombers actually suggested and wanted the Red Tail instead of the white pilots to escort them on bombing runs. They were that effective. They were that effective. Let's go more. Let's talk about more. Let's talk about more. Did you know during the Revolutionary War there were black slaves fighting in the Revolutionary War? That's right, on the Union side. Even though they didn't have freedom in this country, there were black slaves fighting for this country's freedom. Oh, you want to go a little closer? Because that's too far back. So let's go a little up some. How about we go up into the Korean War, where there was black soldiers fighting in the Korean War, even though in this country was still dealing with racism, and even on the battlefield was dealing with racism from their own fellow soldiers. Oh, but they're still too far back. So let's keep fast forwarding up some more. How about we go to Vietnam? Even though there were racism, segregation, separation in this country, there were black soldiers putting their lives on the line for this country, fighting for the freedoms of this country. While back home, the civil rights movement was in full swing. While black people weren't allowed to sit in the front of the bus and had to sit on the back of the bus. While black people wasn't allowed to use the same bathroom as a white person. Wasn't allowed to eat at certain restaurants. They had to get their food at the back gate. At the same time, during this time, we had the freedom riders being beaten while police watched in the streets just because they were trying to fight for the right and protest the right for us as black people to be able to go sit at a restaurant or a diner counter and eat just like everybody else. Probably like, where's my point when I'm talking about all this? When I'm mentioning what happened during all this time and what happened with the freedom riders and civil rights movement and all these soldiers. Where's your point, Alan? My point is to say this. We fought and stand up for this country, even when this country didn't fight and stand up for us. We loved this country even at times though this country didn't love us. We fought for the freedoms of this country even when we didn't have freedoms. We fought for the privilege that you endure, that you love, that you appreciate or unappreciative of having, even when we weren't going to be the recipients of them. We love and fought for this country, even when this country, didn't fight and love us. So don't talk to me about being unpatriotic, because the most unpatriotic act is what's happening to the military today. You think about this. We got the military coming home from fighting for our freedoms to homelessness, to no health care benefits, to PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. They're coming back and they're not able to reenact themselves in society. They don't have jobs. They don't come home to a hero welcome. They don't come home to health benefits. They don't come home to jobs. And you can blame it on what you want. And you want to talk to me about being unpatriotic? The most unpatriotic thing in the world is the disrespect our military deal with from our own government, from the people who live in this country. The fact that celebrities are treated better than our military, the people who fight for our freedoms every single day. So when you want to talk about what's patriotic and what's unpatriotic, let's get to the real details of it. Let's get to the bottom line of it. The real disrespect to the military don't come from a player kneeling on the field. The real disrespect comes from the players, the government, who's choosing not to give them the proper benefits, that's not acclimating them back into society, for not helping them, for not taking care of family while these soldiers are away at war, to protect this country, to protect the rights that me and you have every single day. So when you want to talk about unpatriotic, you want to talk about protesting and what it's like to be patriotic in this country, come to me more than some nonsense narrative. Come with facts. Because that's what I give you. And that's what the Past to Present podcast is all about, stating the facts. It's not okay that black people in America are being murdered by police. It's not okay. It's not okay that the military is still being disrespected and are coming home without benefits, without hero welcoming. It's not okay that their families not being taken care of while they're off serving their country. It's not okay that we're not loved in this country that we love so much. Don't talk to me about being patriotic, because we are patriotic and we do love this country. We love this country very much, even though this country don't always love us. I want to thank you for listening to another episode of the Past to Present podcast. I'm your host, Alan the Great. As always, I want to thank you for coming and joining me for another episode. I hope I see you again next week. I want to let you know, all my fans out there, all my subscribers, how much I love you, how much I appreciate you, and all your support. And I pray that you continue to support the show, continue to watch the show. I hope you subscribe. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to the channel, like, comment, share. Let me know what you think about this video and all the other videos. Once again, I hope to see you next week for another epic episode where we give you quality information, the facts, and we educate you on history. Let's have fun with history. This is the Past to Present podcast, and I'd like to say to you, stay tuned.